And the first thing we will need to do is actually create over here this link to our main CSS, right? Because I'm going to be creating a CSS external style sheet. So I'm going to say over here link, and I'm going to say this is going to have a relationship. It's going to be a style sheet over here. And within the style sheet, we're going to say that this is going to have an address. For now, we're just going to call it main CSS over here like this. And you know what? Maybe let's create it within a CSS folder. So first thing I'm going to say that this is going to have a folder here like this CSS. Then we're going to open that folder and we're going to create a new file, right? So we're going to say within here, we're going to have a new file and this is going to have a main CSS, right? CSS over here with the CSS extension. And so obviously it's empty. It doesn't have anything in it, but let's go back to our HTML and we're just going to say that this is going to have CSS, main CSS, right? So we have actually connected over here our external style sheet to our HTML, right? So now we just can save this over here and go back to main CSS. And the first thing that we obviously want to do is actually start styling the body. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to say that font size over here is going to be 100% because we want to do everything responsive. So I'm going to actually be getting not the size is not in pixels, but actually I'm going to be giving in EM values over here because as the screen is changing, actually all my values is also going to be changing, right? Not just my pictures and everything. So therefore we're going to put 100% and we're going to be working with EM values. And after that, we want to add a Google font. So we go to our best friend Google, and over here I say Google Fonts, and we will just gonna open where's the Google Fonts. So I'm gonna make this bigger over here like this, Google Fonts, and the one that I want is gonna be called a Gym Nightshade, right? So I'm gonna call a Gym over here Nightshade, Gym Nightshade. Here it is, right? So this is the one that I want. So I just click over here, this adding, over here like this. This is going to be my font. And over here, I can see what I need to do, right? So the first thing I need to add this link over here. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to add this link over here like this. And let's maybe give this a name. So I'm going to say that this is going to be main CSS over here. And this is going to be a Google Fonts, right? So this is going to be Google Fonts over here like this. So then we're just going to paste this font family that we need. I'm sorry, we're going to finish with the link and then it's going to be the font family. So we're just going to paste this over here like this. And this is what we need to add to the body. So I'm just going to copy this. I can just close this out. And we have a main CSS right now. And we're just going to add these Google fonts. All right, so this is going to be our Google Fonts. I'm going to save the CSS. I'm going to save the HTML. Now I can see how my fonts change it, right? Because we added our Google fonts. So they're pretty cool, right? They're pretty good looking. I mean, not the best ones maybe, but pretty decent. And over here, what we need to do, obviously, we need to get this image, right? So we go back to main CSS. And we need to say that we were going to start styling the section, right? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that this is going to be obviously what was the name of it. We obviously used the banner or something like that, right? So we can use either a section or a banner because we don't have multiple sections. So maybe that's not confusing. Just say section over here. And we're just going to need to add values, right? So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to say background and it's going to be URL. And over here in the images, over here like this, we're going to go for images over here, these ones, images. So we need to press over here like this. And then we have our images. And you can see that I'm going to be using not the logo because I already used the logo over here. I'm going to be using the background, right? And over here, you can see that my background is ready to go. Now I need to also add a couple of things. First one is going to be background position over here like this. Ground position. Position over here, I believe is this one, right? And I'm going to say that this is going to be a center, first of all. Then I'm going to say that I don't want it to repeat. So I'm going to say background. Background repeat, but you can see that I misspelled it wrong. Repeat over here, no repeat. This is what we want. And then we want a background size. We want it to cover, right? So we're going to say background size over here. And we're going to say cover, right? Because we want it to cover the whole screen. And the last thing that I want a color, and this is going to be color for my fonts. I'm going to say that I want them white. And after that, I would want a padding. And I'm going to say that the padding, the first padding I'm going to add on top. So I'm going to say it's going to be 2em. Then I'm going to say that I want a 0 on both sides. So I'm going to write first 0, and then I'm going to say that I want 5 EMs over here in the bottom. This is what I'm interested. And then I'm going to say 0, right? So you can see that, well, you can see that I pressed O, not 0, but now I have a 0, right? And we're pretty much done with a sections. So the next thing what we want to do is we want to actually style the image, right? Because the image is in the container, I'm going to write container image over here. And I'm going to say what would be the size of it, right? Well, I'm going to say that the width should be, let's say, something like, I don't know, 20 EM, right? And you can obviously play with this and figure out what is the best for you. I'm just going to go with 20 EMs, right? The thing though, however, you can see that it's not a center, even though if we go back, you can see we pretty specifically said text center, right? And the reason for that is because we added over here this image responsive, right? And what image responsive does, it is a, by default, it is actually a display block. So this image is actually a display block. And what we need to do over here, if we go to main CSS, if we want it to be in center using the text center, what we would need to do is actually say display, and we're going to say display in line, right? And you can see right away how it jumps actually in the center. So that's the easiest way how we can actually do that. Now the next thing that we want to do is actually style this paragraph, right? But before we do that, let's just check it out whether we are in the right direction, right? So you can see over here, this is going to be my website, and you can see what I have over here. So we have still some work to do, right? So we're going to go back. I guess we're just going to stay here. We're not going to go back to our main one. And what we're going to do is we're going to say that container over here, this is going to be our class, and we want a container paragraph, right? And what we would want to do with that paragraph? Well, the first thing that we want is color red, right? Then after that, we would want a font size over here like this. And we want to be like 3 EMs, right? Because I want them a little bit bigger. Then after that, I would want a little bit of padding so it gets pushed away from the image. So I'm going to say a padding top over here, and I'm going to say this is going to be 1 EM over here like this. And after that, we're going to say that this is going to have a font weight of bolder, right? So it's going to be font weight, and I'm going to say that this is going to be bolder. Now, after that, we're actually to style the button, right? And what we want is we want a button over here like this, and we would want a, let's say I would want a background color. Over here, I'd want it to be red. This is going to be my button. Now, after that, I'm going to say that I would want a opacity over here, and I would want opacity to be 0.6 over here like this. And then we're going to create a border radius, because I don't know why, but everybody is always obsessed with this border radius, right? So let's go border radius. And when I say obsessed, they're obsessed with making it 0, right? So if I press over here border radius 0, unfortunately nothing happens. And the reason why nothing happens, because obviously with a Bootstrap, it's actually preset. So anytime you want to change some type of value that is actually preset in a Bootstrap, whether it's a navbar, whether it's, I don't know, a Jumbotron or something like that, then maybe there's some kind of property that you're trying to change and you're not successful, you can always try this, that you write the property, and here you would just include important over here like this, and you can see right away how actually my border changed, right? If you can see that if I just delete this, you can see that now it has this nice Bootstrap border radius, which is actually I like. But again, if I'm seeing other people, they're always obsessed with this, right? So I'm just going to keep this important because it's like nice and square. Probably one of the cases why they're obsessed, because it gives a little bit of a more custom image, I assume, right? Because if you can imagine that pretty much everybody works with the Bootstrap, so obviously their web pages start looking alike, right? Now, one thing that I want it to be actually spanning across over here all the way, right? Because like with my forms. Now, the problem over here that I don't want it to be spanning if I'm actually working with a bigger screen, right? So now you can see that I'm still in a medium, right? But if I'd want a bigger one, right, I would want actually to be spanning all across, right? So what I would want to do is actually include a media query over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that, let's say this is going to be my media, and I'm going to write a screen over here like this, and I'm going to say and I'm going to say max width, right? So I only want it to be bigger in a certain widths, right? I don't want it to be all the time big, right? So it's going to be 760 pixels, right? Because that's when it's going to kick in. When basically the screen is going to be smaller than 768. I'm going to make some changes to the button. So what I'm going to say is a button over here, and I'm going to say that this is going to have a width over here of 100%, right? So now I can see that my button is actually spanning 100%. However, it's only doing it in smaller screens, because we obviously want, with the bigger screen, we want to actually hold this in line. And I will show you at the very end when I'm actually going to make this, make our screen, full size, because I don't want to mess it up right now, because we're in pretty good rhythm. So just trust me on this, that it's only working right now on a smaller screens, right? So now that we have that done, let's actually check it out, what we can do with actual forms. So the first thing that we can do is actually, again, overly obsessive. We can just get rid of these borders. But before that, we're actually going to do a font weight over here like this. And we're going to say again that this should be something like 900, right? Over here like this, right? So if we add 900, you can see right away how my the font of my form is actually much more bigger. And after that, what we can do is actually add a form control. So over here, if I go for form control over here like this is going to be the other class that we had, right? We had a form element, but we had over here these form classes, right? So if we go over here, right, this was our form class, right? And what I want to do again is I want to get rid of these borders that everybody is obsessing about. So I'm going to say form control over here like this, and I'm going to say that I would want a border radius, again, 0, border radius, and this is going to be 0 again, and we're just going to leave it like this, because you can see that it's actually changed already, right? Yeah, that's correct, it actually changed. But what I want to do is actually, for the bigger screens, I want a padding, and what I'm going to say that I would want a margin right over here for the bigger screens. Now it's not going to matter over here in these small ones, but it's going to matter on the bigger screen, right? Because I don't want them all to be tied together. So I'm going to say 0.15 over here, EMs. And this is, again, we're going to see it once we're going to be working with the bigger screen. So this is pretty much it for the forms, if I actually haven't missed anything. And what we're ready to do, we're actually ready to work with these font awesomes, right? And the first thing that I'm just going to say that, let's say all the links are going to have a padding all around, right? So I'm going to say this is going to have a padding, right? And you can see how my actually fonts got bigger, right? Now after that, what I want to do is I want to actually work with these font awesome, right? So I'm going to select a class, and this is going to be font awesome class. And I'm going to say that font size over here like this is going to be, I don't know, like 4 EM, right? So I'm going to say font size, and this is going to be a 4 EM, right? So you can see right away how they got bigger. Then after that, I'm going to say a background color is going to be a red over here like this. And I'm going to say that I would want a color to be, I don't know, either black or white, something like this. Let's say black, right? So these are going to be my icons. And after that, what I would want to do is actually add a padding. I'm going to say that padding is going to be like 0.3 EMs over here like this. And after that, I'm going to say that I would want some type of, let's say, border radius, right? And not just some type of, I want actually them to be round. So I'm going to say 50%, right? So now you can see that they're nice circles. Now what I want to do is actually I want to push them away a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create over here this class, and I'm going to say that this is going to be a, let's say, margin class over here like this. And within the margin class, we're just going to say that margin top is going to be 2 EMs over here like this. So if we go back here, nothing is happening because I haven't added this class, right? So we can just save this main CSS, go back over here, find where we have our div, right? This is our div. And the only thing we need to do is add this margin class. Now I can see how my buttons actually moved over here. And this is going to be pretty much it for the CSS. Now we're ready to actually add a animated CSS over here library to our website, so the things actually start moving. Then simultaneously, pretty much we're gonna add a wow.js, and then after that we're gonna add this clock over here, the countdown clock.